Well, as we start off a new week and take a look at what's happening with the weather across the country, already a fairly wild start to the new week here as we get ready to exit February and head into the month of March. Joining us now to talk about the weather, Eric Snodgrass of Nutrient is with us. And Eric, good to catch up with you, sir. And I know you had a little bit of severe weather roll through your neck of the woods early on Monday morning, and we've seen plenty of severe weather in parts of the plains, snow in the west. There's a lot going on to start the week, isn't there?
Yeah, and it was this all part of the same storm system. So this is the one that came down across the West Coast over the weekend. It was the one that put that snow into Southern California. I mean, a lot of folks in Southern California, this was their first time experiencing snow. Of course, they can see it in the mountains all the time, but first time experiencing it. Some places in the Sierra Nevada, though, added another 6 feet of snow. And they may have, this is no joke, with the next system that comes through, they may be looking at another 40 to 100 inches of snow, which means California this year isn't begging for a miracle March. They've got the moisture in place. It's actually there all the way to the upper Colorado Basin right now. So there's good snowpack in the west. But that same system then on Sunday night came out in the southern plains. And the first thing it did was just light up New Mexico into Texas with a massive dust storm. I think it's the sixth one I've counted so far this year down there. So that just really illustrates the drought. And then last night, we're already up over 9 reports of tornadoes last night alone, plus 170 other reports of severe wind and hail. And that same storm system's coming through the eastern Corn Belt today. And just literally in my backyard, I was on a meeting today about a half mile from my house. We had a tornado. So I'm looking at my radar imagery over here, talking to this guy on this meeting. I need to go. I got to go see this, but I missed it. But my colleagues were out chasing it and did see it. Thankfully, that one was in. Of course, our fields are not planned or anything. So it was all out in the middle of the fields. Best way you could have a tornado is just no crop in the ground, no houses nearby. So thankfully, no damage out of those early. So that's going to keep moving east. And it's got a winter storm warning on this one to the north. We got wind advisories all over the midsection of the country. And so it's kind of like this is a late February line, but we have a March line coming in behind it. So yeah, there's going to be no rest for us this week as we watch this pattern unfold.
Well, real quick before we talk about what's ahead for the month of March, with some of that rain, severe weather coming through the central southern plains, are we going to get moisture there? And this might tie into what's coming in March. Did we get some moisture to help out that winter wheat crop at all, despite the severe weather?
In some places, yes, but the problem has been that the dry line, that's a real common term when you're in the southern plains. The dry line's been pretty far to the east. And so these storms blew up in central Oklahoma, central Kansas, and then kind of the far western edge of the Red River. So this didn't get that moisture back farther to the west where we need it. I'm talking panhandles, western Kansas, and parts of southeastern Colorado. So no, not necessarily there, but it certainly is a soaker other places. And so we're still watching. Remember, most of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Ohio Valley have deep soil moisture deficits. This is good. We need this moisture to do it. We had the massive winter storm last week that put a bunch of snow stretching from South Dakota through Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's good. That's all in place. That's moisture we're going to get later when that all melts off. But to be honest, it's going to take good spring rain to undo that. But if we have all this spring rain, we have to start worrying about fighting type planting windows. So it's kind of a give and a take here. We need to cure the longer term drought situation, but we need to also bring up that soil moisture at the same time. But by the way, real quick, last week's drought monitor shows that from the peak in last November, early December, we've dropped 30% in land area covered in drought. So most of that's been east, though, not in the central plains.
Well, that's at least one good thing, getting some of it gone. As we look into March, what are some of your thoughts, just what we're going to see later this week and the next couple of weeks ahead here, Eric?
Well, there's a bit of a pattern shift coming up, and I've been really skeptical of it, but this weekend finally got me convinced that it's really going to be there. So we've had a big southeastern ridge that's kept much of the eastern half of the country warm. That's why the Great Lakes are I think they're now less than 5% ice covered. That'd be near record low territory. It's just been so mild east and cold west. Well, we needed to have something to displace all of this. And what we see forecast in the models is that after about the 8th or the 9th of March, a big blocking pattern is going to set up in the Bering Sea, and that just changes everything downstream where we are. It's going to push some of that colder air that's to the west finally over us. It's going to be this mid-March cold, maybe week to 10 days. We just want to make sure that we can break that and get back over to mild conditions as we go into April, because those insurance states came back, right? They're a little earlier now than they were in previous years. So a lot of guys are going to be wanting to go by April 5th in and around the ice states with their corn. So I think we're going to have to watch those all very carefully. But yeah, there is the risk of some colder air finally getting here and some snow maybe in the Midwest by later this week. Where I live, we have not needed more than a broom to push the snow this year. This storm system late this week that could produce severe weather to the south. I'm talking about over the the lower Mississippi River Valley in the southeast to the north, snow, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Where you are, it's going to be all rain, possibly some stronger storms. That'll be our March Lion coming in here, and behind it, that's when I think we're going to get finally some of the colder air arriving.
Well, Eric, as well, how does La Nina figure into all this? Are we starting to shift more to a La Nina pattern here?
Sure. If you were just to show me the trade wind behavior right now, I'd say what La Nina. The trade winds are not behaving like a La Nina. Excuse me. And on top of that, the ocean temperatures have been really increasing in temperatures over the last month or so. Like right out there in the middle of the Pacific, we're now technically out of La Nina territory. They're warmer,
Mhm.
a half degree below normal Celsius. So that's the range you typically look for. So it's good. I'm glad to finally say that we got a La Nina forecast right, because this one is fading very quickly. What that could mean for us later is better chances of precip through the growing season. It could mean that the greater risk of heat will be way to the west. I'm talking like Great Basin to the Pacific Northwest going into summer. That's a possibility with this particular pattern, which could point to some big yields. But you know how it works, man. We got to wait till we
Mhm.
get to June, see what the pattern's doing at that time period, those critical time periods for our crops, to see if the ridge is here or if it's west of here.
I should have said getting out of a La Nina pattern we've been in. One Monday brain on me here. Eric, before we wrap it up, let's talk South America. What's the latest there? I know we're seeing dryness again in Argentina, some advancement of harvest of soybeans and planting of safrita corn in Brazil. What's the latest there?
Yeah, the big issue for me is kind of this the setup that's happening between southern Brazil and Argentina. So Argentina's forecast is double down again on the dryness. The temperatures are coming back up, so it's going to be mild. But you get north of there into southern Brazil, like Mato Grosso do Sul, Paraná, Santa Catarina, Sao Paulo, Goiás, and then into Paraguay. And over the last 45 days, it has been soaking wet there. I got a message last week from a guy that I know down there said he's had 600 millimeters of rain in the last 30 days. That's 2 feet of rain, right? I mean, I think I did that math right. About 24 inches of rain. And so they're trying to get the crop out in central Brazil, and there's just no break in the action at all for them in terms of precip, while Argentina goes hotter and drier, which is going to continue to be, I think, a story going forward. I thought it would have broken already for Argentina, but no, it just keeps going.
Well, Eric, we appreciate the time as always. Folks can stay up to date with the weather, your daily weather newsletter. They can sign up for that on our website, markettalkag.com. Have a great week, sir. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, you too.